to the Awakening Podcast. You can find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. My guest today, he's been there before, and I thoroughly enjoyed all the episodes, and I'm going to actually tell you what episodes he's on, because I know that after the conversation, usually people are trying to find out. So one is you can just type a person's name in the actual website that I've got, and all the episodes come up, but it's episodes 129, 141, 181, and 249. Founder of the Sovereign Project, you're author of The System. I actually have that there. And I know that there's another book about school, but it's somebody connected or something like that. Very, very good book as well. But
David Alderman.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it before, but I'll actually mention it. I mean, I read constantly, and your workbook is one of the best things that I've come across. And
thank you.
Yeah, so please welcome Peter Stone.
Hello, everyone.
So
nice to be back.
No, definitely. And I suppose let's start off anyway. That we're going to do it more regular, because it's actually been a year, which is a shame, because I mean, people really enjoy what you do, and you have a fantastic way of actually simplifying, whether we call it complex or what. But I know myself, I read so many books, and sometimes I get nothing out of it. And I know that by reading your book, it was like, oh, this is a godsend. This is so good. You know, it's like, but I suppose let's put it, the most important thing is what happens is people, they go, oh, I want Peter to do everything for me, or I want Roy to do everything. We have to take control ourselves. And I think you're very good at actually doing that. Whereas I'm seeing a lot of people out there now. Like, I'll give an example. I'm not going to give the name of the organisation, but there's this guy, he's out, and I watched a load of his episodes on YouTube and stuff like that, and he's partnered with someone. And he's apparently making millions from tapping into CV Trust or whatever.
Right.
And now they're doing something. I just saw the email and I went in, and they're charging $3,000 for that. So if you're making multiple millions, would you not do that for society, or even have a little bit of skin in the game to show? But when I saw $3,000, I just clicked X'd. I was like, there's no way you're making multiple millions and charging that. So, I mean, let's touch that, because there's hundreds now that are unfortunately doing this. They're telling people to do something. They're leaving them. People are going to jail. They're doing things totally wrong. And then they run for the hills as if, like, it's not my problem, but they have their money.
Yes. Unfortunately, there's quite a few scammers out there, and I know who you're talking about. We won't mention any names. But what I will say is to everyone listening, be very careful. If anyone out there is asking you to pay for money up front and then sign a non-disclosure agreement, don't take that. I wouldn't. All right. The problem with a non-disclosure agreement is that it makes it very difficult for you to do anything when something goes wrong. So once you've paid this $3,000, and normally what happens is the situation gets worse, not better. And like you mentioned, it leaves these people in serious legal hot water. And then they turn to the person that they paid the $3,000 to, and they say, no, you're on your own. I can't help you. And that's it. So a lot of people are ending up in serious problems, and they can't then do anything. It's very difficult to sue the person they paid the $3,000 to because they signed a non-disclosure agreement. So don't do that. One of the things with the Sovereign Project is we always give the information out for free. Okay, so we sell books, yes, we sell online courses, but all that information is free on the website. So you can check it out for free. It doesn't cost you a penny. And if it resonates with you and you like that sort of stuff, come on board. It's not a problem. So, and by the way, just one last thing. There are some fake Sovereign Project sites out there, and I've heard some rumors are getting back to me. People are pretending to be Sovereign Project, and they're charging for membership. Don't fall for that either, because we don't charge for membership on the website.
And just on that, actually, because I was trying to get leads for one of the clients, and I invested because I was working on a paid commission kind of thing. And I had an interview with a guy. He had testimonials. So it was like, I always check everything, and there was like a couple of thousand followers. So I was like, okay, this is grand. It turned out to be a scammer. Reported him to Facebook, reported him to LinkedIn. He's still up. I mean, that's pathetic. Like, no matter what and I know there's other people like on TikTok or whatever, and there's like 100 versions of them. They use the exact same picture, they copy everything, and then they start, by the way, following you. Like, because you forget sometimes you just accept people as they're following you, because you don't know what, there's genuine people out there, so you can't be going through all the details. And then they write, and you look at it, and you think it's that person writing to you, and you engage in a conversation because you just don't put two and two together. And the main thing to do is, like, usually people like that don't be writing to you. And
Correct.
I know, but it's like, I mean, even if you saw that or I saw it and I reported it, it's sad, but they're not putting it down because unfortunately it's run by the bad boys. They want that to go on.
Yes, that's right. That's right. They want to keep it going. There's a lot of disinformation out there as well. Now, here's the thing as well. I know a lot of people are saying things like, controlled opposition, or he's a shill and all of that, all the rest of it. That might not necessarily be the truth. What could be going on is people out there might just be a little bit confused, a bit incorrect in their knowledge. They're trying their best. They're on their own personal journey and they get a few things wrong. Even if they are controlled opposition and shills, doesn't mean you should stop listening to them, because for those people, they have to use some truth for their scam to work. So the trick is to take the good stuff and ignore the bad. So that's what people should. I listen to a lot of people, even people I completely disagree with. Oh, by the way, there's another tip. If you listen to someone you disagree with, it can test your own knowledge. So that's what I like to do. So when I listen to someone saying, "Now you're wrong," and I can test my knowledge on what they're saying, so it strengthens you as well.
Yeah, but I think that's a fantastic point, because sometimes we go, oh, I know because they've done some sort of symbolism or whatever. But I know that there's sometimes I have got my information from that person.
Yep.
Because as you say, they can't be all, because they have to make it look like they're against someone and they put out the information. And sometimes it's a couple of months later, maybe a year later, but they've got such a massive audience. They're actually doing us a favor.
Yeah, absolutely right. And hand symbolism and all the rest of it, I've been accused of that. But I'm just using my hands, because I've had people say, "Oh, you're a Mason because you're making hand signals while you're doing podcasts." I go, "No, it's just the way, So now I'm like thinking, "Oh, better not do that. Don't do that. Oh no."
I done a photo shoot with the guy because I have like this crypto thing, and one of them, in the end, I've done the mic, but your man said, "Put it up to your right." And I wasn't even thinking, and they look good. And then I was like, "Oh no, they didn't." I kind of think.
Yes.
Sometimes even my hands, because I take, you get when you're doing YouTube, the pictures come up, and it could be like the devil's horn, and I'm like, what? So yeah. And then when we see that, we think it's intentional. So maybe we have to, accept it could be the same thing.
Yeah, you got to calm it down. A lot of people. This is how they do it. This is how the system works. Is yes, they do use symbolism, absolutely 100%. So when people start waking up to this symbolism, the people who control the system push it to the other extreme, and they make you see symbolism everywhere. And then it sort of like ridicules the idea of symbolism. So it kills it, if you know what I mean. So people got to calm down a little bit with the symbolism. Yes, they use it, but it doesn't mean that everybody is doing Masonic symbolism with their hands. And I'm not. It's just the way I use my hands.
So let's give us an update of what you're doing, because I believe you had an event recently, yeah? So you might just tell us exactly what you're up to, what the event was about, how it went.
Sure. This is the third event now. We've done one every year for the past 3 years. This one was twice the size. So the last 2 years, we've done 100 guests. This one was 200 guests, sold out within 4 weeks. So we call it Sovereign Conference 2024. In fact, I think I still have a book. You get a book with a ticket. So the Sovereign Conference 2024, whole load of juicy stuff in here. We had a couple of guest speakers, Trina Deacon and Callie Spell, and they contributed to the book as well. So there's loads of juicy stuff in there for all the ticket holders. Really good. Everyone really enjoyed themselves. So mainly what we tend to do on the Sovereign events is one of the things we focus on is the mindset, okay? Because it's absolutely key. You've got to get rid of this slave mentality. So people are still falling into this trap. They're trying to look for magic paperwork. They're trying to use access statutes and all the rest of it, and they're completely lost, and they're going to lose. So we do the mindset stuff, and then we get into how the system works. So we explain how it works. We go into details. I think one of the things we discussed was the fact that the government is, in fact, a corporation. I'm hoping people have woken up to this now. Hopefully everyone who's listening to your podcast knows this by now. And the UK is a corporation, no different than McDonald's. As soon as you know that, you can start playing the game. So you can start, oh, right, so it's a corporation which uses contracts. And as soon as you realize it's all commerce, it's all contracts, which means it requires your informed consent to contract with them, you can play the game. And now you can do it. Now you can learn that tax is, in fact, contractual. In other words, you can't be obligated to pay tax unless you've agreed and consented through a contract. So when you start learning this stuff, people go, wow, and it wakes them up. So that's what the conference is about. It's also about the networking, because we are expanding the Sovereign Fraternity Network. That means people join, about 10 people a day join now. We've just set up another 2 workshops. I think, if memory serves, I think we've got 17 workshops operating around the world now. That's educating people on how this system works. We also do what are called chess clubs. So people can meet once a week at a local area and discuss this sort of stuff. And we can even set you up as a lone night. So let's say you can't get to a workshop, you can't get to a chess club, but you want to be connected in this network. You can sign up, you'll be connected with the network, and you will be able to connect with other people. And we're all sharing information. It's growing massively. The software project's getting so big. I've got a team now. I think I've got over 40 odd people in my task force just helping me run the Sovereign project. So, and those of you who knows who you are, won't mention any names, nor embarrass anybody or anything like that, but thank you very much to all my team members, because I couldn't do it without them.
I think the last time we were talking about, was it called Wiki that you've created?
We did.
So is that still, how's that going?
Oh, yes. That's, people are now contributing to that as well. So the Sovereign Wiki is one of the free resources that we offer Sovereign Fraternity members. On there, I don't know if I mentioned, but we've put all the DUNS numbers of all the councils on there. So if you're dealing with a council tax, and hopefully everyone by now knows that the councils are just corporations. The private business is for profit, okay? And we've proved this. We've got a page on the Sovereign Wiki where just about every single council's DUNS number is listed.
So now, for those that don't know, what's a DUNS number?
DUNS number, right. A DUNS number is a number issued to a business for credit reporting purposes. Now, it's a little bit deeper than that. I don't want to go too deep and confuse people, but it is tied into the Cesta KV trust, the use of credit, and all the rest of it. But the main point to remember is that this DUNS number is applied to businesses. So a business gets this DUNS number. It's a 9-digit code. And it's DUNS stands for Dun and Bradstreet. It's an American corporation. They do have offices all over the world. And they list every single corporation and give them a DUNS number. As long as, also, by the way, if you've got a DUNS number, it also means that you have a company number. So in the UK, that'll be company's house. So that these councils have also got company numbers as well with company's house, because they're registered with company's house. Now, I was going to just add one thing about councils. Some councils don't have a DUNS and they don't have a company number, and they're operating. But what they're actually doing is they're operating on top of another corporation, another council. So it's like a parent company, right? So it can be difficult to deal with that council, prove they're a business. But the good news is if you're dealing with that council, you have the right to ask them to identify themselves. So you can say, I'm going to need your DUNS number, I'm going to need your company number, and I'm going to need your incorporated certificate before I can even deal with you. Now, if the council comes back and says, we don't have any of that, says, right, go away then. What am I dealing with you then? You're not anything. You're not part of the system. You're not registered. You can't use any of the acts and statutes. You can't touch me. Go away. So identify yourself. So people have got to get used to this. As long as people understand it's all commerce, right? And all these corporations that you are dealing with, you have the right to know who they are, and you have the right to ask them to identify themselves. So you should always start with, if you're dealing with debt collectors and all the rest of it, ask them, identify yourself. Who are you? So if they come back and says, oh, we don't have a DUNS, or we don't know what you mean, or all the rest of it, say, okay, go away. I can't deal with you. Because when you go to court, it says they haven't even identified themselves. Court can't move forward. It's good when you know how it works.
And have you got people kind of internationally that are able to check this? I mean, is that a UK thing? Because you said it's from the States, so does that mean even in Poland here, or does it?
Every country, yeah. DUNS is global. So DUNS is, like I say, it is an American company, Dun and Bradstreet. It is based. It's basically tied into the UCC codes. Again, I'm just talking in layman's terms here, okay? It's a little bit more complicated than that. But basically, the entire system is commerce-based. It's all corporations, all of it, including countries, by the way. Every single country out there is a corporation, no different than McDonald's. The UK, for example, the United States of America is a corporation. That's the easiest one to see.
Usually when there's an of, it's
Of, correct. Of means without. So
Republic of Ireland.
There you go. Nothing to do with Ireland, the land. And I mean, people are getting it. They're understanding this, which is good. People are learning it. But you've got to understand, England is also a corporation. Wales is as well, and Scotland is as well. So there's a lot of people who say things like they want a Allodial title, and they go, "Oh, it doesn't work in Scotland." And you go, "You've lost the game already because you're talking about the corporation." So Scotland, a corporation, yeah, they don't have a Allodial title. You can't get given a Allodial title. It's something that you have to take and claim yourself. So yeah, if you're operating within the jurisdiction of the Scotland corporation, yeah, it doesn't work. But why are you? Why bother? Don't do that. Just work on the land itself. Don't have anything to do with Scotland, the corporation. This is what people have got to do. They've got to stop working within these jurisdictions and walk away from it. So I'm not part of the UK corporation. Go away. I'm not part of the Scotland corporation and all the rest of it. So yeah, the Dun & Bradstreet is the dead giveaway. That is the smoking gun, if you like, that proves that all councils are in fact corporations and they're privately owned, which means you can treat them as a typical business. All right. So when they send you a bill, you say, well, hang on a minute. Where did this bill come from? I don't remember placing in an order. Because you can't receive a bill unless you placed an order. So you can request that. You can request to see the invoice. Can I see the invoice, please? And of course, the council can't provide one because you never placed an order. And without that invoice, then they can't send you a bill. And this goes against the bills of exchange, which is what they are signed up to follow. They're a registered business. They have to follow it. They're the rules. And they are violating their own rules. So then you say, well, if you can't send me an invoice regarding this council tax bill, then don't contact me again. I've got no obligation to pay it. It's simple when you know how.
I had a case there where we had tenement buildings and they were looking, it was 28,000 Polish zloty, so about $7,000, let's say. And I never used the service, but it was like it didn't matter for them and they just kept coming after. In the end, I was using my own letters, and in the end, they kind of said, we'll settle for $4,000. I never accepted that, but they froze my account and they just started them. And then they started putting plus interest and penalties for something like 7 years of, and I'm still kind of fighting it. It's like, but it just shows, one, it went from 28 down to 4. You know, like you would think, how is that possible? Like, but I remember when I went in there, they like, you know, they always have a Rottweiler and they have the nice person in it, and all they were doing is sign that there. I was like, nope. I just got up and walked out, and like they're looking stupid at me, and I saw the letters, and they passed me from different person with the letters. It was just constantly, because then I was going for the individual, and then they'd give it to somebody else. I had, I think, at least 10 different people, and I've been requesting my money and everything, but I assume I you know, because I'm learning this as I go along, and you know, I'm getting some success. Is there ways when we know we've been tricked of ever getting the money back, or is it?
Yes,
there is. Okay,
absolutely, 100%. Now, again, we can go back to the council tax thing, because people are waking up about council tax. It is a fraud, all right? So that is out now. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a council tax fraud. Now, yes, if you've been making payments and there was no original contract to make payments upon, there was no original obligation, and you were making payments, and the other side were using fraudulent documentation to make it appear as if there was a contract, you have the right to claim all of that money back, all of it. Okay, that's basic contract law. Now, the thing with the council tax is it's even more serious than that, because a lot of people did not pay the council tax, but then they were persecuted and, you know, had the car seized and all the rest of the nonsense, attachment of earnings and all the rest of it. And this was all based on a liability order, or so-called liability order, that the council claimed gave them the authority to do this. So attachment of earnings, seizing cars and all the rest of it. But since 2003, the council have not been allowed by the court to issue liability orders. A liability order can only come from a court. That's it. And the way it works is, hopefully everyone knows by now that we use a debt-based monetary system. It's all promissory notes, IOUs, all this sort of stuff. And within this legal tender system of promissory notes and debt, a debt will only exist or is only recognized as existing when the court says so. All right? So in their legal system. So until that point, you can make a claim of a debt, but unless the court agrees and finds that you are correct, the debt does not exist. So when the hammer goes down and the judge finds in your favor, you get a summary judgment and says, yes, I find that the debt is genuine, the debt does exist, then the debt is created, and that is done through a liability order. Only a court can do that. Only a court, their courts can do that because they are in fact banks. They are the only people who have authority within the legal system to do this. Corporations such as councils and McDonald's can't do this. You have to go use a court system. So what the council's been doing is bluffing it, and they've been using a document called Notice of Liability Order since 2003, and they've been faking it, and that means that people have fell for the scam. They thought, oh, okay, I've got a liability order here, and the attachment of earnings has gone through, or the car has been seized, and all the rest of it. So what you can now do is, if you were a victim of this, you can go back, get all your paperwork. Even if you don't have your paperwork now, you can get it. You can get it from the courts. You can get it from the councils themselves. You can desile them and say, right, I want to see all this paperwork from 20 years ago. You look through all that paperwork, and what you're looking for is the liability order. You can't find it. It doesn't exist. Once you have that evidence, you can go after the people who work for the council and say, I'm a victim of crime here. You had a deficient instrument to be able to hit me with attachment of earnings. Therefore, it was illegal, and I want it back with interest and damages. So this is exciting because people are waking up to this. Thousands of people are waking up to this, and they want to know more because so many people are living in poverty now. They can't afford council tax. The electricity bill's gone through the roof and all the rest of it. So people are desperate. People have been victims of this fraud for at least 2 decades. So it's time to fight back.
And it's interesting because you mentioned the Allodial title, and that's something that I'm trying to research at the moment. And
yeah, I can help with that.
Basically, like, I mean, I had everything taken off me, and everything was fraudulent. Like, I was like, I mean, I even had a court case, and I had an affidavit. They couldn't respond to my affidavit, yet they took everything. And we have proof that they were overcharging interest and everything. So now, like, I was afraid to ever buy a property again because it's like, so I rent because it's like you have something and they just take it. And I said, if I'm ever getting anything, I want an Allodial title because I don't want them to have any claim in it. And then put it into a trust as well that it's like outside of me. But like, so can you touch on the Allodial title? Because I think we need to get away from them having their fingers in the pie.
Yes. And this is where the Sovereign Project really is. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate people on using their own authority, okay, and using their own paperwork, because that is key. You can't be granted a Allodial title. Not how it works. It's like rights. You can't be given them. They're yours. It's like freedom. You can't be given freedom, okay? It's yours. So people have got to understand that, because people are making the mistake of trying to use the legal system, trying to find some magic paperwork or a form that they can fill out that is somehow going to give them their rights or their freedom or their Allodial title. No, it's not how it works. And this is why a lot of people fall for the scams, because their mindset is all wrong. They're looking for a higher authority. What they're doing is they're looking for, if I join this group and I pay them some money, they'll give me a plastic card and that gives me my sovereignty and I can wave this plastic card and no one will touch me. And no, your mindset is all completely wrong. Plastic card is worthless. It doesn't have any value whatsoever. It doesn't matter what form you've got. It doesn't matter what document you've got. Your sovereignty comes from here. It's you, your heart and your mind. This is where it comes from. People have got to stop looking for it. And you won't fall for the scams either. So you can't pay somebody that's going to give you a document that's going to make you sovereign. No. So once you've got your mindset correct and you do become sovereign, and I mean truly become sovereign, not fake it, not just say you are, but you know it and you know it inside and out, then you can play the game. And you use your own paperwork. So to gain a Allodial title, the only person that can give you a Allodial title is yourself, because you're the one making the claim. So you can claim the land yourself. Now, this is the weakness of the system. People have got to wake up to this. Everything's corporate now. A corporation's got no rights. It doesn't exist. A corporation, it just exists on paper. It's not a living, breathing man or woman. It's got no word. It's got no law. So land registry, well, whoopee-doo. I mean, who cares about land registry? You know, it's a bit of paper, isn't it? So if you want to claim the land, you should be saying, is there another man out there who says, I can't claim this land? And if no one steps up, you go, okay, fine, I'm claiming this land then. Land registry is nonsense. In fact, the titles within land registry are literally worthless, because it shouldn't even be called land registry. It should be called address registry, because it's addresses. So you got to research this. You got to look into this. It's all in the language.
To touch on that as well, they use that to check your assets. They can type in your name and they know what you got. So then they grab everything that you own.
Yes. Now, let's just touch on that. Yeah, absolutely right. Now, what they're actually doing, this is what they're actually doing, is they're grabbing the title to said asset. That's different. That's different. It's not the asset itself. So this is why I say it's very, very dangerous to register anything with government, because what you're doing is you're creating a title that is now in the control of the government. So if you are sued, then that title is at risk. But you've already given it away, because it's already in the hands of the government. You see what you've done? You've given it away. Your car, for example, the V5, okay, government's got that. Your land registry, okay, government's got that. If you register your business, you don't own it. You've given that title away. This is why the lien process works. The lien process goes after those paper titles. It can't go after the living, breathing. It can't even go after the assets. This is the mind-blowing stuff. So let me try and explain how it all works. You've got to go back in history. You've got to understand how it all works, how they all got away with this big, massive scam. You've got to start with the king. Let's start with that. Let's start with the land itself. Okay? Now, whether or not you're religious or not, doesn't matter. Okay? I'm not trying to preach God or anything like that or convert you to a religion, all right? But our ancestors, thousands of years ago, believed there was a God, and the God created the earth and gave it to us, and we've got dominion of the earth. So it's God's earth, all right, in layman's terms, okay? Now, the idea is that each of us, every man and woman, has a fair share of the earth. We can have our own little parcel of the land, blah, 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 and we can have all of that, and we can have the land. However, the king, he makes a claim that he owns all the land, but technically he didn't make that claim. The reason is he can't, because it goes against God. Because he can't do that. Because if he says, I'm going to claim all the land, you're going against God now. Because the land is supposed to be shared with everybody. All right? So the king doesn't want to go against God. So what he does is he creates a legal jurisdiction, which is his kingdom, and he creates a survey. So the way it works is all that he can see, he puts down on paper. And what he puts down on paper is he then says, anyone operating in my jurisdiction is now operating in my piece of paper. All right? So this is how it works. So the land itself, the physical land, is not actually owned by a living, breathing man or woman, but there is a legal jurisdiction placed upon it, and that will be the king's kingdom. Now, to be in his jurisdiction, then you would accept the legal title subject. So if you were subject to the king, then you accepted his rule, and you would accept his jurisdiction, and now you operate in his jurisdiction. Also, we've got to talk about the word people. People basically means chattel. You've got to be careful of that word, who's using the word people. So if the king says, he's talking to his people, because he says, my people, he's addressing his people, or my people, he's literally saying, I own you. So you're chattel, you're my free labor. So what he's saying is you are living upon my land, just like the animals, and I can use the animals, I can use the trees and all the rest of it, and I can use the people as slaves to work the land. So it's all in the titles. So the king's been doing titles and jurisdictions for centuries. Now, fast forward to today. Everything's corporate now. No one truly believes they're subject to a king. Yeah, okay, you've got King Charles, right? Does anyone believe that King Charles has any say over you? You got to do as he says? No, of course not. So it's all corporate now. You've got the UK corporation, and what has happened is that people believe they've bought land, but what they've done is actually bought a title, a paper title that is operating within a corporate jurisdiction. And you've got to have a read of what that title actually says. And you'll find that it actually has an address on it. So you've actually bought an address. You haven't bought the land. So this is another thing people have got to understand and learn. If you truly own something, then you can change it, right? Because you won't. I can do what I want with it. I've got full Allodial title. I can change it. Now, can you change your address? No. So if you're living in your house and your address is 69 Frederick Street, you can't change it. You can't say, you know what, I don't like 69. I'm going to change it to 12. No, it's not your address. It's theirs. So what you've done is you've basically, I'm going to do layman's terms again. It's like you bought an entry in their database. So the postcode, okay, is not yours. You can't change it. So that, again, the postcode is basically a military grid reference. Think of it like that in layman's terms. So you've got a worthless address, not the land, okay, but the address has a jurisdiction on the land. It's not the land itself. If you truly own your land and your house, then you would name the house. That's what you can do, because it's my house. I can name it, and I can change the name of my house because it belongs to me. So people have got to start learning of naming their house, right? The bricks and mortar, because this is why the system is so fragile, because no one's claimed their house yet. All this land and all houses are up for grabs. Everyone's dealing with worthless bits of paper with land registry, which is addresses and worthless titles to a plot. I mean, this is another thing. You go, okay, what have you bought? If you've got plot number, you bought a plot, not the land. Another one is lot, L-O-T, lease of title. There's another one. So you bought a lease of title. And you go, okay, what's the title to? Oh, it's to a survey. It's a survey? That's just something I've looked at. So, honestly, when you learn this stuff, you go, this is so fragile, isn't it? So, all right, what does this all mean? What does this all mean? It means the entire legal system is a complete fraud, a complete scam. All your titles are worthless. They don't have any real value at all. In fact, I'll give you a little... I've got some friends in America, and they give me some tidbits. And what they've realized this address scam. And what they've been able to do is they've got their land, which the address used to apply to the land, but they've shrunk the jurisdiction down. So the jurisdiction doesn't apply to their land anymore. And they've shrunk the jurisdiction down to a post box outside their land on a pole. So the address now only applies to a little box with a number on it, and that's for postal services. It doesn't apply to the land. So now government officials and all the rest of it can't enter that land because the jurisdiction is being removed because you've shrunk it back. You've claimed the land. So what I'm trying to educate people in is to use their own authority, use their own paperwork. Especially as a man, you have to be in a position where you've got your own coat of arms, you've got your own seal. This is what the rich people have, by the way. If you notice, all the people at the very top, you know, the elites that they like to call themselves, they have their own coat of arms. They have their own flags. They have their own seals. They have their own paperwork. And we've just got to learn the same. We've got to do exactly the same. So once you learn how to do all this, you can claim your house and your car and your land and your children and your business and all the rest of it, and you move it into your paperwork and take control of it. But yeah, it's a big scam, and you just got to wake up to it.
And like, so for example, when you're buying a property, depending on the country, so UK, the solicitor in Poland, it's like a notary act. You go in and you write it all. And like one that I bought years ago, I got all the documentation out, and they were like, sign here, sign here, sign here. And I just I said, no way, like, and never heard no more, because I kind of realized they're kind of asking you to sign, because then but I'm just wondering on the notary, because like, yeah, I mean, there's all trickery with the words, as you said, plot, survey, and all this. If you have something like that, or you have your title, what's the procedure? Do you have to, you know, the way sometimes they say put it on a newspaper and just make... How do you actually do it?
Absolutely. There is a procedure. And what we're going to do, we're moving it up to modern times because we've got a technical spin on this as well. But let's just go through how it used to be done. And everyone's forgotten this, although we still use the terminology today. So, for example, you still use the term stake your claim. That's even used. It's a phrase that people use, and people don't understand where that came from. Well, in the olden days, if you wanted a parcel of land, you would put the stakes in the ground and all the rest of it, and you'd mark it all out, and then you would say, right, I am intending to claim that land for myself. And you would then notify the local village. So you go to the local village, there would be a notice board, you'd put it on the notice board and say, I'm claiming this land, 30 days. If anyone disagrees, now's your time to step forward. If no one, you'd have a town crier back in the olden days, and you have a ring a bell, and town crier would give out the news, and he would say, what's on the notice board. So if no one stood up and says you can't make the claim after 30 days, then you are now allowed to do it if you like. It's your right to do so. No one's objected, so you could do this. You do it through affidavit. People have got to learn affidavit of property. All right, you've got to learn this. People have got to learn about affidavits in general because it's the most powerful document on the planet because it's yours. There's no higher document than your own affidavit, period. And it decimates the legal system, destroys it. So your affidavit of property, you make basically affidavit means affirm to God. You're making an oath to the God. You're
like a sworn statement.
Sworn statement, absolutely right. The ultimate, truth. And it is a very powerful document in two ways because it's an expression of your authority, but it's also, if you're found to be lying, that document can be your undoing as well. So that's why it's very powerful. So if people are using an affidavit, make sure you know what you're doing, because if you're caught out lying, you're in serious trouble because you put it down on an affidavit, and that's like your court case. So they are powerful. So anyway, so you do an affidavit of property, you make a claim to the property, state what it is, and your name, and you don't use a surname. This is another thing, you see. People think they've got a deed to the house. They go, no, you haven't. Have a look on the name. Who's the name? It'll be Mr. and it'll be a surname. Well, you don't have that. That's not your name. The surname's not yours. That's a surety name owned by the Vatican. So it's their name. So their name's on this piece of paper. So you put your name on, and your name is your given name and your family name. Okay, so you put that on there, and then you make a claim of it. And after 30 days, if no one objects and puts forward their affidavit, that's it. Land's yours. Done. And then from there on, you can now create your own deed. So you can create a deed. And within that deed, now this is where you get a deed of allodial title. And this is how you will know you've got a deed of allodial title, because it will say so. And on that deed, it will state, words to this effect, but it will say something on the words that the holder of this deed, named you, obviously, has all rights, titles, privileges, licenses thereof. There'll be a declaration that there is no third party involved, no higher authority involved. So there'll be some form of declaration like that. So that means you hold all the titles. You own it outright. So if it doesn't say that on your deed, then all you have is some worthless title. And you've probably just got an interest. You've got a title to interest within a survey, nothing more. It's worthless. It's garbage. So that's how you get it. Now, what we're doing is we're adding a little bit of a spin to this, as we're bringing in some modern technologies. We are developing a technique where you can take your documents and place it on the blockchain. And we can actually put it on an NFT, non-fungible token. Unique to you. You have full control of it. We have some project has nothing to do with it. It's a tool we give you, and then you use it. You have full control over it. And that means all your documents, not only do you have the written documents, but you've digitized it. It's on the blockchain. And now there'll be a QR code and anyone can scan it. So you can say, I own that land. And they go, well, how do I know that? It says, well, all my documents on the blockchain. You scan the QR code and all the documents come up on that person's phone. It's all there. You go, there you go. You notice there's my affidavit. And you go, there you go. I've got the original. Got the affidavit. Well, there you go. And of course, all being well, you'll also have your coat of arms, your seal, and all the rest of it involved as well. So that'll be all part of the package. So you are taking control of your dominion at that point. You are the man. You are no one is above you. You have, no one has a higher authority. You control everything. And we are bringing in modern technology to make that happen. And the more people who do it, oh, wow, the power of that, power of the blockchain. And then you don't need land registry. You say, what? You go away, land registry. All you have is a worthless title to an address that I don't even want to use anymore. When you learn how this works. So,
Oh, excellent. So there's one no on that, because one, I'm assuming with the Allodial title, you don't need to go to the corporation to get planning permission.
correct.
But on the other side, like, just assume we all have a lovely plot in an area, with our families and everything, and then you have, Gypsy decides to build a 50-foot palace that just is an eyesore.
Yes.
What's the case there? Because it's like the speeding and everything. There's always, we have to have some sort of kind of law and order, let's call it, or whatever. Like, in that situation, what do you do?
Your law. Okay. It's like anything. It's like if you've got a problem with your neighbor, you deal with it. So if you do have a neighbor, let's say, someone decides to do that and they decide to block you. Say you've got a window and you've got a nice view and it's been there for years. And then someone decides to build right in front of your window and it blocks your sunlight. Okay. Fine. Okay, fine. You deal with it. You don't turn to any government agency, all right? And the way you deal with it is using your authority. So you'll actually contact them. You can just say, you don't have to be nasty or violent in any way, shape, or form. You can say no. You can even stop before, if the building begins, you can say, oh, hang on a minute, you're gonna have to stop building because you're gonna block my view. Okay, so you can do it in paper form, serve notice. But what you would do is use your authority and you use your court. This is what people have forgotten about. Every man and every woman holds their own court. See, people think, oh, you got to go to court. No, you don't. Go to court is a corporate court, right? That's the trap. If you've got the right mindset, you will know that you have the right to hold your own court. And that's what you would do. So you serve notice and you can use, I'm going to use air quotes here, the court system, because you've got to understand that the court system that is in use today was originally for, I'm going to use air quotes again, for the people.
But someone will freeze that now and say you're the difference off.
Signals. See, the problem I have when I start explaining stuff, I have to use like layman's term words, but the words have multiple meanings.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's why I love the way you explain things. Yeah.
So that's why I tend to use a lot of, I'm using layman's terms now, and I'm using air quotes so people don't get confused. So, because we all know people means chattel, but I'm using people in a different context here. So people. So the courts were for the people, okay, for us to use. In other words, it was supposed to be a place in the village. Say, for example, in this hypothetical scenario, there's a village. There'll be a court building, okay? And that is for you to use as the sovereign. You would go and contact the court and say, right, I'm suing my neighbor because he is now blocking that window. Okay, I can't see out my window now. And I did serve notice on him and I did tell him not to build that building, but he went ahead and did it anyway. But I now want to hold my court here and I want everybody to hear. I'm making my business public now and I want a jury of 12. Okay, so fantastic, great. So then you would take your neighbor to court. And you'd plead your case, and the neighbor would say his side of the story. The jury would make the ultimate decision. And if they said, yes, your neighbor is way out of hand, you can't block your window, you've got to take that down. And it's what he's got to do. So that's how it works. That is using a lawful system rather than a legal system with legal titles and corporations and codes and all the rest of it. So do you see the way that we solved that problem? We weren't looking up any codes. We weren't saying, oh, you can't build because of Act and Statute X, Y, and Z. We weren't doing that. We were using our own law. I'm just saying you can't build there because you're blocking my view. I don't have to look it up. Yeah? So this is where people are going wrong, because they're thinking if I can find a code out there or something in a book or an act or statute, then I can use that and I can do such and such. No, that's the wrong approach. Use your own law. So hopefully that explains it.
Oh, brilliant. This is one now that I'm seeing in the news, and I'm not sure if we have an answer for it, but basically somebody in Disneyland, they advised they had an allergy for something, and apparently it's not the first time that it's happened. And the way that they got out of it, they've lost the case, was basically they said, oh, you subscribe to our Disney Channel or whatever, and they have terms and conditions. And so it was like you agreed to arbitration, which is their arbitration. And I'd love to know your take on that.
Yes, exactly right. That is the trap of the system, and you've highlighted it perfectly. Because someone made the mistake of basically registering or signing up to something and not reading the small print, then yes, you are now pulled into that jurisdiction. They have control. Absolutely right. So it's like Apple phone. I think everyone knows about Apple products now. It's the worst spyware there is. You see, it's the same thing. Tesla, I think, is doing it as well, and Microsoft are doing it as well. Well, what happens is that you buy the phone, and then they ask you to register it, and then everyone does it, and you click on the thing. Do you agree to our terms of service? Blah 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 blah. No one reads it. Everyone clicks it, and what you've just done is you've taken that new device that you've bought and you've given it back to the corporation. You've given it back to Apple. It says, there you go. You can have the phone back. You own it now. You have the controlling interest. You have the equitable title. I'm just a user now. And you've agreed to all those policies. And now Apple can jump into your phone all day long and have a look at your contact list and your photos and all the rest of it because you've agreed. So yes, I'm hoping this is a wake-up call and people are realizing what they've done by mistake. Now, the good news is informed consent. You can be tricked into entering into a contract. And if you have been tricked, then the contract is still null and void. All right, so you can challenge the contract because the way I would have done it, that Disney thing, I would have challenged that, and I says there is no actual contract because there's no second signature. But I would have said that's a service agreement that I agreed to, not a contract, and that undoes their side because if I say it's a service contract that's just got my signature on it, then that means I control the service contract, that service agreement. So I have control, not them. Because it's only got my signature on it. My signature's on it. It means I control it. I control that document. So that's what I would have done. I would have said, don't have a contract, have a service agreement. And one last thing. One thing that it would be good is to people to not get pulled into the legal system, right? If you do want to enter into a contract with someone, like through trade, you've got a business or something like that, and you go, you know what, I don't want to get pulled into the legal system. I don't want to get... And the other person also is in agreement. So two of you want to enter into a contract, but we don't want to get pulled into the legal system and spend hundreds of thousands and lawyers and all that. Well, both of you can actually determine who the arbitrator will be if there is a disagreement later on down the line. And it can say, legal system, but out. We won't be using it. We'll have Fred as the arbitrator, whatever you want. So you can put that in a contract, and that means that the legal system can't get the clause into you. But yeah,
I mean, because I kind of got involved with that before. Like you have a court of arbitration, and basically both parties say we're going to use. I mean, that's kind of companies providing service, and if it's non-biased, but which unfortunately normally isn't, it's the person that says, "Hey, this is a better thing." They're usually buddy with the sun, so which in turn they make a decision which is binding. So you have to be very careful. Is it a better system? Yes, because you mightn't be 10 years down the line bouncing from court to court using trickery and everything, but you still have to pay it. It's still like the court there was like 5%, and the ones that I had seen it was like 5% that you're paying up front, so the boys have it. And so yeah, if you can kind of organise somebody that will represent both fairly, it is a way better system because it's like a mediator, basically.
Yes, absolutely. We're discussing this within the Sovereign Project. A lot of us, we have discussions on this, and hopefully, once the Sovereign Project gets big enough and the fraternity is large enough, then you can actually designate that if there's any disagreement within contract, you want to hold it in a sovereign court. Well, there you go, and we can do that. And when I mean sovereign court, it doesn't mean that it's controlled by the Sovereign Project. No, it means it's controlled by the sovereign, which would be the man making the claim. So it would be, Fred and Bob, if you like. They're the two sovereigns, and they're holding their court. And all we would do is facilitate the building, and we would help with the administration, and that's it. The court itself would have no authority. This is where this is where the corruption began, because people thought the courts had the authority. No. The court only has an authority if there's a sovereign in that room making a claim, because that's where the authority comes from, the sovereign being. If there's no sovereign being in that courtroom, it's not a court. I mean, this is the thing with speeding tickets. Everyone's walking into these courtrooms over speeding and traffic offences and all the rest of it. There's no sovereign in that room. There's no one making a claim upon you. There's no jury of 12. This is obvious. You know, some of this stuff is like in your face. You go, oh, God, why didn't I spot that? It's just a brainwashing. Get rid of the brainwashing.
And you know, you mentioned about the Apple, and I mean, we've all seen that. And sometimes you read it, and you know, this isn't great, but it's like when you don't hit the box, you no longer can use what you've got. And if we look at, say, like the likes of Google and Windows, you know, Microsoft, like, because I have a device, a lot of people might know the Spooky device, Spooky 2, it's like a frequency device. And on my laptop, it kept disappearing. And I'm not the best at kind of technology, but I got an IT guy came in and he basically says, they're actually removing that from your system. And it's like, yeah, exactly. So I know I hate them with a vengeance, to be honest with you. It's like, I know so I use Brave. And the problem is then there's a lot of different things that I'm doing and Brave doesn't work. And I have to jump back into these either Firefox or Google. And it's so hard to navigate with all this kind of thing because, yeah, you don't hit the box. Yeah, you're not getting the service.
Correct. It is difficult. I have different computers with different operating systems on. I've got a Windows 10 machine, a Windows 7 machine, Linux machines. Some of them are dual boot, so they're both, so I can switch. I use Brave, but sometimes I'll use Start Page, and there's other ones that I
haven't heard of Start Page. What's that one?
Yeah, Start Page. That's pretty good because it doesn't track your searches. So it says it doesn't track, and I know they state we don't track your searches. You should never, that's the sales pitch. You should never accept the sales pitch. But then I researched Start Page and I didn't find anything negative. So it wasn't like people going, oh, they're lying. They do actually track it. So that's why I start using Start Page. Very simple, very clean web browser. So I use that. I will use Google sometimes. The thing with Google is, unfortunately, it's got the largest index. All right, it's just the biggest. So it has got the largest index. But the thing with Google is it directs you away from the truth. We all know that. So it gives you nonsense. And a lot of it will give you sales pitches and it's trying to sell you something and go, I don't want that. So if you're doing a general search, if you want recipe for chocolate chip cookies or something, yeah, Google, fine, whatever. If you're doing some SDKV stuff, don't use Google. It's not a Google search. Try using Start Page or something like that. You'll get better results. But yeah, I got Windows 10. I won't get Windows 11. Windows 11 is horrendous.
And they keep pushing it. Like they
do. They do. They go, oh, free up. Like, if you've got Windows 10, we'll give it to you for free. You can upgrade to Windows 11 and all that. They do want to push it on you because it's basically spyware. It's got keyloggers on it. It's got screen grabs on it, so it's grabbing your screen periodically. It's doing that. You know, this is all stuff that's been reported. You can go and look this up. Don't take my word for it. But yes, it is a little bit more difficult. We are looking into a solution within the Sovereign project. We want to try and find a clean device. So a device. So even if you get a mobile phone, some of these modern mobile phones, they've got basically, I'd call it a corrupted chipset, which means there's software which is like firmware in the chipset in that phone you can't remove. Now, in the olden days, you could get like a smartphone and completely wipe it, absolutely completely wipe it, and then put your own operating system on it, and there's nothing left. Oh, by the way, Windows 11 does that as well. So if you install Windows 11 on your machine, it permanently changes your chipset. So even if you take Windows 11 off, you say, I'm going to run something else, there's still Windows 11 stuff in your chipset. Very technical. Go and look it up if you want. So that they're doing that. They're changing the chipset, the firmware. Anyway, but we're looking into hopefully getting a phone that's completely clean, might probably run Linux, so it'll be a Linux-based phone, and there'll be a series of apps that you can use that you know are completely clean. So we're looking into that. We might have something in the new year that we can offer to people. But even if you get a nice clean device, if you put some of these apps on there, like Facebook, and you just open the door. You just put it on. You just put the spyware on that device. So people are just going to stop using it. there was a time, remember back in the day, when I was a kid, there was no internet. Lived quite happily with my push bike and, disappearing in the fields, with all my chums for Saturday afternoon, get up to mischief. Won't say any more than that. But life was simpler back then. You don't need it. So switch it off. A lot of this stuff you don't need. Get rid of it. Don't need it. And I don't have a banking app. No, thank you. Not interested. I don't even have emails on my phone. Don't want that one.
Like the encryption, because people think Telegram and WhatsApp, 100% they're not encrypted, because even at one stage, I had written to somebody about a book they asked, and they wrote it on WhatsApp, and then I started getting ads for that. Yes. And I was like, you wee scumbags. So there is nothing encrypted. So people think, I know people, they'll only phone on some system, Signal, I think, or whatever. Every one of them. There's nothing. Because if that was the case, anyone who wanted to do anything dodgy would just use that system. So there's no way they'd allow that anyway. So sure. There is zero encryption.
Correct, absolutely. In fact, anyone using the www protocol, let's call it that. So here's the thing about the internet. See, people think the internet is www whatever. They think that's the internet. Go, no. That's just a small fraction. There's multiple different protocols that computers can use. Tor network is one. For the dark web uses a completely different protocol. But yeah, anyone using those protocols, www, if you're using the email at such and such, they're transparent. All your emails are being read. So you're operating in a computer protocol that is ran or controlled by corporate entities, and they can get into it. So yeah, nothing is,
and because like NFTs and stuff, I think that's brilliant. But if we look at the blockchain and crypto, because people are using crypto, so I was using a ledger system, and I'm censored heavily. Like my YouTube for the Awakening, Linktree, everything. I'm just constantly battered left, right, and center. But it's part of the job. But like, I'm after losing my train of thought there now. But what did I say at the start? Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the we're talking.
Oh yeah, the Gmail. Okay, so basically,
Gmail.
In this
emails,
they removed my Gmail for a few days, and then my authenticator was gone, and you have to log into your authenticator because that's a Google thing.
Yep.
And when I told the guy that I know that has got millions in crypto, you see his face. It just went, because some people weren't thinking of that, and they can just turn that tap off, and we have to be very careful.
Yes, they can. And that reminds me as well, the two-stage authentication thing they're trying to do. So, when you log into something and then they say, oh, we're going to send you a code to your phone, and then you get a code on your phone, and then you type that into the website so you can get into the account. That's data mining. That's why they're doing it. It's got nothing to do with keeping you safe. Because you've agreed to all of this, and they now have got access to your phone. And they can look at your contacts, photos, everything. You agreed.
And the CAPTCHA, I heard the CAPTCHA is for training AI. Because you'd be like, why am I doing 10 of these boxes? We're in the traffic lights, it's there. And then it just, apparently that's used for training AI. So we're the monkeys there,
Yes. Like I say, try not to use it. I know it does have a use, but there's people out there where technology is taking their lives over. They are doing everything online. They've got apps for this. You've got smart fridges and smart cars. And what are you doing? Come on, get rid of all that stuff. You don't want it. It's like these modern cars that come in. I don't want to buy a brand new car now because it's so full of junk and tracking and speed limiters. And I think the new cars they're coming out with is that it will automatically, the car itself will, I think it's Ford, if I remember rightly, it will automatically notify the police when you're breaking the speed limit.
And I've seen a guy, and he had the documentation where, I didn't know, is it from 2016 that they've included in the cars and people didn't know, but it kind of comes in line with this 15-minute city crap that you're doing, and the speed limit as well. You can't, Sundays we're going to have no car day, and you can't get into your car. So for me as well, I wanted to get in, and I'm like, no, I'm keeping my 13-year-old car. It's working perfect, and it's like, they can't turn that one off.
That's right. I want the older stuff. But yeah, you don't want any of the modern stuff out there. I mean, also the modern cars, going off track a little bit, but they're junk. I mean, they've got so much planned obsolescence in a modern car now. They're designed to fail just outside of the warranty, and in a catastrophic way that costs thousands to put right. So you look at a modern day car now, and it's really expensive to repair. It's all by design.
I heard that they have, even on the doors, there's a clicker. So when the door is open like 20,000 times, a certain thing goes. And I remember with my car, it was like I had these tire sensors, which, I mean, to me, that was like, ooh, luxury. Because, I mean, you always know when you have a puncture. And I don't know what it was. It was like 300 quid for the lot of them. But basically, two had gone, and your man said, they'll all go. And it's like, well, and within a week, the whole lot of them. And I just take them out. I'm grand. I know when I have a puncture. I mean, it's a strange one. Like, but like, I know a guy. He was working for a company. They were making fans for like washing machines and also for the cars.
Yeah.
And it used to be a 5 year. You need to have a 5 year, and then it was like, yeah, it just needs to last a year.
Yes.
And everything is like that. Oh, and they're like so-called the same people then trying to tell them, oh, the planet, we're saving the planet. I mean, even if you look at an iron in our day, it was like for 20, 30 years, and it's still grand. Whereas you buy one now and you're lucky if you get 3 years out of it.
That's right. That's right. Everything is like designed just to last enough. Then it breaks down, and then people forget, and then they go and buy another one. And I think we shouldn't do that anymore. So enough's enough. I don't want to buy the junk anymore. I'm not buying it. So
yeah. So like, I mean, I mentioned your workbook and everything, and I'm just constantly reading stuff. So this was a guy that recommended, he was talking about the affidavits that was on and basically going into the courts and serving people, making people liable. So it was actually an interesting, but this is the one, the history of the American Constitution and common law. It's talking about equity and merchant law. So I'm about to read that. And there's another one. There was a guy that I spoke to on Lunch Club, and he recommended this one, the rule of law. And it's kind of, I kind of look at both sides of it, because sometimes you need to know, because sometimes you're already in the door and it's hard to get back up. So just curious with yourself, because obviously, I mean, you're...
Absolutely.
So what do you recommend? Is there any books that you'd say, this is a dinger? Barry or well, of course.
Yeah. I'm going to say, there's my latest book. There's another one and another one. So I've done another two.
Oh, have you? Oh, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah, so there's two, and I'm writing another one. But yeah, see, when people listen to me, they think that I don't use acts and statutes or constitutional stuff or all the rest of it. I says, no. I play the game. I play the game that fits the remedy. So you gotta have a good understanding of all of it, constitutional stuff, Bill of Rights, all of it. The history of law, for example, and I use the term, quotes again, law. You need to know all of it. And there will be a time, in fact, some of the stuff on the Sovereign Project that I've given away for free makes reference to acts and statutes. There is a time and a place to use them if you know how to use them. Now, the thing about the Constitution, you've got to be very careful. You can use constitutions, by the way. It is a useful tool, but you've got to be very careful with them. One of the things that people are making a mistake with the Constitution is believing it is their Constitution. It isn't. All right? Because it will always be we the people, something like that. And gives you a clue. They're literally telling you. So the people who wrote it, like let's take the American Constitution. That's the easy one. They're literally telling you. It says on it, we the people. Straight away you will know, oh, well, that's abstract, isn't it? We the people. Because how do you define that? How do you define we the people? Because how many people are there? Give me their names. You can't do that. So, okay, abstract has no meaning. Then you're using the word people. People means chattel in their legal system. A people, I'm a man, not people. So people means chattel, slave. So that's another thing. And you go, well, hang on a minute. Who are these people who sat down and wrote this out? No one did. No, we the people never sat down and signed this. No, just a handful of people did. The founding fathers. They wrote it, not the people. So, and look, this is very easy to understand. Ask yourself this. Can you change the Constitution? And if the answer is no, and it is, you can't change it, it's not yours, is it? If you can't change it, that means it's not yours, you don't control it. So never, ever quote the Constitution and place it upon you. Don't say something like this. You have violated my constitutional rights. because that one sentence is game over. You've lost because you've just accepted the jurisdiction of that constitution. That's what you've done, and you've lost because what people don't understand, a constitution is really about commerce and about rules of a corporation. If you accept a constitution, it makes you a constitutor. And you're okay, what does that mean? It means you've accepted the debts of that corporation. You've become a taxpayer. It's like the Human Rights Act. So in the UK corporation, they have the Human Rights Act. If you quote that, if you say, my human rights, and reference the act, it makes you a taxpayer. You've agreed to the small print. So you should never do that. So what do you do with acts and statutes and constitutions and Bill of Rights? What you need to do, if you're going to use them, and you can use them on all registered businesses. And you trap them. So you would ask in one of your notices, like, do you follow the Bill of Rights? Just a simple question as that. See what response you get. You've trapped them because they can't say no. You know, what do you mean no? You go, what? You don't? Okay. And if they say yes, then you've now got them in that jurisdiction, and now you can start quoting it. And then you can start quoting it in a way. Now, here's a tip I tell people writing notices. Try and be clinical with your notice. Don't make it personal, and don't put yourself in the notice. Try and write it almost as in the third person, right? So don't say, I have done, you've hurt my feelings and emotional stuff. Don't do that. Write it clinical, like a business letter. And what you will do is if you can get these people within that jurisdiction to say the Bill of Rights, you can then quote the Bill of Rights, and then you can ask them why they have violated it. You see how I've done that with the language? I've not applied it to me. But what I've done is I've highlighted this. Aren't you violating this? Why have you violated? Do you think you've got the right to violate this? In the language. So people have got to do that. But yeah, you can use constitution, all that sort of. And I do. I play the game.
And your books, because I wasn't aware that you've got 2 more books. Are they available? Is it on your own site, or are they on Amazon?
Yeah.
Or
it is. The manual you got there. What we've done, we've put it into book form. So that's the book form, because people were saying they like the information, but they'd like it in a book. So I said, okay, so we've done that. So the manual that you have is basically the same in this. So the information is the same, but we've just put it in book form. So that's that, because people are asking for it. And we've done this one, which is the system delving deeper into the abyss. Now, this one it's linked to a new 20-week course we hold, which we call the Masterclass. So when you've done the 22-week course, which is the foundation class, which is linked to that manual you've got there, I take it to the next level. And I explain how the courts work, the hidden truth and all that. It goes quite deep. But you've got to know your stuff for that one. But this, by the way, you don't have to buy the book, people. I'm not selling books. This is free. If you want, you can download the chapters for free off the website. But if you buy a book, it helps me out.
With the post, then, because I know there's a lot of trickery with letters and stuff like that. And I don't know if we can touch on as well, because even here, I'd get, because when I have guests coming on from America or whatever, and they're sending stuff, and then I end up having paid duty for something, even though it's kind of written down, and you're going, and they never give me a receipt. I said, okay, give me an invoice, just to fucking, and they won't even print off. And I'm like, if I done that, it's illegal, well, it's so-called, if I'm in their system. I'm under, and I'm like, the more government things, they never, and like, I mentioned notaries, all the notaries do not give you a receipt, and they all insist on cash. And that's since I've been here 17 years. I have never had a notary that said you can pay them electronically. You have to, and I mean, look, they charge a lot of money sometimes. You have to pay them in cash, and they've never got receipts, like.
That's right. You might notice this. They don't follow their own rules. So this is why you should learn them. If you learn the system like I've done, that's how I can make the claim and say they're not even following their own rules, because I've learned them. I know what they should be doing, and like you mentioned the invoice earlier, absolutely right. So it's like duty. So you import something. Now there is a pseudo contract going on here, because what you've done, if you if you export from, say, United States and you import into the UK, those two are different corporations, okay? It's not the land. And what you've done is you've taken your goods, whatever it is, again, goods is a term in commerce. So you're operating in commerce and you're operating between two corporations, right? And you're doing a movement of goods. Therefore, the one that is receiving the goods can charge you a fee for administration costs, and that's where the tax comes in. All right, so that's how they're doing it. So it's a dirty trick. Okay, it's passports from port to port. Ports are tax free, by the way. So port is tax free, but once the good is at port, it's tax free. But as soon as you transfer that into the jurisdiction of your country, UK, for example, that's when the tax is liable. So that's what they're doing. So that is the contract. But you're absolutely right. So if you get a letter from them, customs, and they say, hey, you've got to pay this. All right, then, give me an invoice, please, and I'll pay it. And they can't because there's no legitimate contract. There's a pseudo one. They've tricked you. It's sleight of hand. It's like ULEZ. It is contractual. You've agreed, but sleight of hand because you registered your car. It's like speed limits, 20 mile an hour. You've agreed, you've contracted, but sleight of hand. It's a snidey contract. There was no informed consent. So they can never use that against you openly. They can't say, oh, yeah, you've got to pay ULEZ because we own your car because you registered it. So, yes, but you can serve notice on them and say, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, I'll pay the duty, but just give me an invoice. And they can't because there's no legitimate contract.
I had a case where I was doing the post office, but there was a big queue for one behind me. And it was like they refused to give me it. So, yeah.
Well, you
give it to me.
You can start taking names. So if this happens, you say, hang on a minute. If you're in a post office, they're obligated to process your paperwork anyway. So they have to do it. They can't refuse. They can't do that. What do you mean refuse? You sworn an oath. If you're postmaster of this post office, you sworn an oath. So you can't refuse. Well, what's your name? Okay, what's your name? Okay, fantastic. I'll be writing letters and I'll be seeing you in court, fella. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's something else we've got to educate people with. But, yes, so, invoice is the way to go. It's all commerce. This is what I want people to understand. All of it is commerce. All of it. Nothing in the legal system is lawful. All right. Now, I know people are getting into constitutions and they're getting into like English common law, that sort of stuff. That's not law either. It's all legal. If it's written down, it's legal. Simple as that. That's how you understand. That's how you tell. If it's on paper, it's legal. It's a contract. It's a policy. So, yes, a minefield. I would strongly advise people to learn the game before you play it. Otherwise, you end up in serious trouble because you don't know what you're doing. I was talking to a group Wednesday morning. We just had a coffee and everything. I was explaining to them constitution stuff. And it says the way to do it is consider it like a game board. You're looking down at the pieces, right? You should be sovereign. You're looking down at the board and you can make the moves. Don't be a piece on the board looking up, going, oh, I'm trapped on the board. So, and try and think of it like Monopoly. So Monopoly is the game board. The hat is your legal persona, which is your birth certificate, right? It's a piece you're playing, right? And it doesn't matter in what jurisdiction. It could be constitutions, a Bill of Rights, it could be English common law, whatever. But it's a game piece. You just got to learn where you're going to move it to, where you're going to play it. But you're the player, yeah? You're the one in control of it. So that the hat or the car or the little dog or whatever, that's your piece, that's your legal fiction, that's your legal persona. So as long as you can separate that with everything that you do, you should be on a winning path. All right. So hopefully people understand that.
And like, if you're getting all the letters from, say, the banks or city or whatever, is it called franking or something like that?
Yes.
But I mean, it's not as if it's a unique number. So that's a lie in itself. Like, so they're not paying post, but you have to, well, my thoughts are you must respond because they give you kind of a deadline, 3 days, 7 days. And
let me explain.
And the reason being, I'll tell you my case first, is because when I didn't, my accounts were getting emptied because they assumed that you acknowledge it and you were, and that's the trickery. Like, it's like if you don't respond, you're guilty.
Correct. You acquiesced. You agreed through acquiescence. That's how they do it. So let's talk about the Postal Service. Now, let's just use the UK. That's an easy one. You got Royal Mail. So straight away, there's a clue in the title saying royal. Right, okay, so that's referring to the monarch, the king, okay? Now, you've got two offices or two parts of Royal Mail. You've got the Royal Mail Office and you've got the Royal Mail Service, okay? They're two different separate things. The service is the actual delivery of the mail. So that's the postman doing his rounds, putting the letter through your letterbox. That's the service, okay? Now, that can be done two ways. It can be done by you applying a stamp, which would have the king's head on it, and it would go on the envelope, and you've paid for the service, and the service will be carried out. Or you can go the corporate way, where they use a franking machine. So they'll frank it. There will be no stamp of the royal king, but they've still paid for the service. So they've paid for the service, but they haven't applied the stamp to it. And you go, why not? Well, the stamp has another meaning to it. Basically, the Universal Postal Union is the highest court there is within their legal system. It's above all else, okay? It even operates above war, believe it or not. Even at war times, you're not allowed to hit the postman. He's out of bounds. He's operating in a different jurisdiction. So the UPU is the highest court there is. Now, the reason you use that court within their legal system is proof that you sent the document. So the way it works is if you've got an envelope and you write on that envelope the address, for example, who you're sending it to, and you put a stamp on it, you've put the jurisdiction of that court on that envelope. The envelope is now in their court and it can be used. And that is also the address. That is now in the jurisdiction of the court. And it's the royal court who is now taking on the liability, if you like. And they're the ones saying that was delivered. The king says so. So if you send anything by post, you put a stamp on it. If the other person says they didn't get it, I don't care. King says so. You did get it. The king says so. That's the end of it in their legal system. In fact, that just reminds me. There's a lady who was facing £1,000 fine and 6 points on her license, and had to go to court for speeding offence. And the court dropped it because of a stamp. The prosecutor went, whoa, and I'll tell you why. Is because the police sent the lady, I'm going to simplify the story, but basically the police sent the lady a form to fill out, wanted to know the name of the driver. She didn't know really what she was doing. She filled it out, put it in a post, and this is the key thing. She put a stamp on the envelope, and she wrote on the envelope, and she sent it off. A few months later, it got returned. You don't know why, but it was just returned. Therefore, the police came after us, and you never gave us the name of the driver. Therefore, we're suing you. See you in court. So when she ended up in court, she handed the envelope over to the prosecutor and says, look, I did send it, and there's the stamp. And the prosecutor went, yeah, we're dropping the case. The prosecutor knew she could not go against that stamp because the stamp, the king had said, that was delivered. So even though the police saying we never got it, doesn't matter. That stamp says so it was. So this is why I say to people,
I've had court cases where they denied getting something and I knew they did. I didn't know that. Yeah,
absolutely. So you can take it along. You can say to the court, no, because you get a receipt. So we do recorded delivery now. So we can do it free. We use a little package like this sort of thing, and you do recorded delivery. Use the Royal Mail, and it's absolute proof that it was delivered. The Royal Court says so, or the Royal Mail Court says so, and you can use that in court. And the other side can't beat that. Now, when you get to the franking stuff, you put the burden of proof on them. So, say some corporation said, "Oh, we sent you a notice," and did you? I didn't get it. What have they got? Nothing. They can say, "Oh no, we did." Did you put a stamp on it? Oh, you didn't. Oh wow, okay, you got no proof. I received it then, have you? So it reduces it. And the reason why they won't use the Royal Mail is because what they are doing is fraudulent anyway, and they don't want any record of that. So that's why they frank it. So yeah, I mean, why would you? And if you're doing something legitimate, why would you not use the service of the Royal Mail? the court. Why would you not use it? It's there, use it. Yeah, they're dodgy. It's all fraud.
Just finally, because I know we kind of touched on it before about trust. We mentioned trusts, and I know there was people like specializing. So based on me losing everything, I was kind of trying to find out as much as I could. And then I was looking at some people that were selling trusts in America and different things. And I came to the conclusion that it's like the Allodial title. You just create it yourself. You don't have to go away and buy something. And it's like there are so many people out there trying to say, hey, we sell you this. And I was so close to buying it because I thought, okay, and I just realized near the end, it's like, no, I create this myself. So, yeah.
Yes, you got it. You're absolutely right. There's a load of people out there selling trusts for like £15,000. I've heard of some horror stories, 20 grand plus. Oh, and oh my God. Really getting ripped off. And the problem is if you don't understand how a trust works, it doesn't matter how much you spend on paperwork. If you don't know how to use that paperwork, it's worthless because the courts will rip it apart. And you don't want these trusts. A lot of these, if you go to a trust specialist, a corrupt one who's going to scam you, they'll get you to register it and get you to have a statutory trust and all the rest of it. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a time and a place for those types of trusts for certain remedies, all right? So I'm not saying they're all bad. You can use them for business and all the rest of it. It depends how complicated you want to play the remedy game, all right? So there is a time and a place for them, but it shouldn't really be used for family trusts if you're trying to, protect your assets for your children sort of stuff. So if anyone wants to do a trust, absolutely right. Learn how a trust operates, know what you're doing, and you can create it yourself. And you can create your own trust, use operating in the private, operating in your own dominion. Now, we do have a trust specialist. In fact, we have two as part of the team here at Sovereign Project. Their details can be found on the website, and they can help you put a trust together. But what they like to do is they like to talk to you, see what it is you're trying to achieve, and they can come up with a solution. And I think one of them only charges like £600. And it's like, I don't know how she does it for the money, if I'm honest, because that's a lot of work.
And I mean, if you look at the value of a property or even putting your car or any assets, and to be honest with you, I've heard of figures a lot higher than that for people. I've never seen anyone that say they'll do it for that. Like there's people that will sell something, like a document, but they're not there. So that is good value.
Yes, good value. Yeah, I mean, for the amount of work that goes into it, the hours and stuff. I mean, if I was going to sit down with someone and help them plan a trust, put it all together, educate them and all the rest of it, that I'm looking at a week, maybe two worth of work, and I'm going to charge them £1,500, £2,000 for my time. But yeah, I mean, that's the sort of, if you want to pay someone to put something together, you got to pay them. I get that. But yeah, if you're going above like £15,000 or £20,000 for like 2 weeks' work, I'm going.
There was somebody I had on before, and I mean, it was mainly to stop paying capital gains in America. They were charging 20 odd grand. Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with the tax thing as well, I know people are trying to put assets into a trust to avoid the tax, right? That's technically not the correct approach. Really, you should be going head on and saying, hang on a minute, am I even obligated to pay it? That's what I'm waiting for. When you get enough people saying, hang on, instead of me trying to run away and avoid the tax, just stop, turn around and go, well, hang on a minute, am I obligated to pay? Where's the invoice?
I've done that with because I had a bond and a pension, and so I got the first one, and it took $6 grand or something like that. And I said, Sean, and in the end, I'm writing to him. You can only do it online. You can't ring them. There's like 2 hours in the day you can ring them, and there's not anybody there, and you're listening, waiting, and then they said, sorry, there's not enough time. But in the end, they've wrote back and said, all I need is a letter from the Polish government saying that I didn't have income here. Like, oh, yeah. And it was like, exactly. So it's
it pays to stand your ground, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, but that's what I'm waiting for, is to people to start challenging stuff rather than sort of like hiding and running away sort of thing. You got to turn around and fight back. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, if the system still survives in 10 years' time, because I think things are really going to unwind in this decade, but if the system survives, and I hope it doesn't, but if it does, then yeah, you might be having to look into trust to protect stuff and all that sort of stuff. I get it. It's got a use. But you also want to be part of a network as well. So I see a trust as a tool. You shouldn't just rely on it completely. You need more tools in your toolbox. And I think the main strength, or the main thing that you should have is a network. You need a network of sovereigns. So you're with others. And then if you're with a network of sovereigns and they all think the same as you and they're all truly sovereign, they can help you and we can all work together. That's the key. And that's what I'm trying to create.
Beautiful. Listen, Peter, as always, thoroughly enjoyed the call. You might let people know where they can find you.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Yep, you can check me out on the website, which is thesovereignproject.live. Like I say, we do not charge for memberships. If you land on a website saying Sovereign Project, it's $5.99 a month or something. That's not my website. That's someone else's. So on there, you will find a lot of information, and you can get hold of my team members. If you want to set up a workshop, we have someone, Carl. He's waiting for your email. If you want to set up a chess club or you want to become a lone knight, part of the network, Carl will chat with you. There's other emails on there for other things. Yeah, it's all on my website, and the Sovereign Wiki link is on there as well. So that's the best place to find me. And we have a YouTube channel now and all the rest of it. All the social media is also on my website. All the links, all the, I think we've got a WhatsApp group and all the rest of it. Facebook and the usual Instagram.
Yeah, I'll make sure I put the links both on the audio and the video. Thank you very much, Peter.
Excellent stuff, excellent.
And as we said, actually, Peter's going to come back. So, send in your questions. But what we want to make sure is that it's not personal to you, because what we want to do is serve the audience. So it's basically when it's kind of relevant to more people, then we'll address it. So that's all for the Awakening podcast. You'll find all our episodes on awakeningpodcast.org. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friend, and comment on everything we've done. We like to read your comments. Until next week, take care. So I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As mentioned at the start, you'll find my 6 podcasts on bio.link/podcaster. And also, if you'd like to start a podcast or do a podcasting tour, you'll find the information on that or on the QR code that's there. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, and share with your friends, because it really helps. Until next week, take care.